I'm Jordan Hatfield. This is Faster Film Critic. Today on the show, we talk 28 Days Later with Kolter and Chase Fugel. 28 Days Later is a virus horror film from 2002 directed by Danny Boyle, starring Cillian Murphy, Naomi Harris, and Christopher Eccleston. If I ever wake up completely nude and oblivious in a hospital bed, I'm going to be relieved to discover the entire town is vacated. Get in, we're going cinephiling. Welcome. How you guys doing?
Good, man. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah. I understand you like yourself some 28 Days Later.
Yeah,
is that right, Kolter?
I do. What is with him waking up butt naked in the hospital? Is that like a British thing they do to their coma patients? Is some kind of a sick joke?
You know, I think there were rumors of the size of Cillian's package, and Danny Boyle just wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah? Okay.
And he was like, hey, you know what? In this scene,
fair.
I want you to remove all your clothes.
Yeah, let's see what this guy's working with.
I mean, right? If you were a director, wouldn't you? If you heard rumors of somebody's schlong being abnormally huge, you'd be like, I want to see this thing, man. Drop those drawers.
Isn't that why people become directors?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Cillian let everybody down. He did not live up to the rumors.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Hey, I got to ask you guys, is this a zombie film?
If it's not a zombie film, then what other genre does it fall in? I challenge you with that, good sir.
All right, well, I will tell you, good sir.
Okay.
George A. Romero, who is the godfather of zombie films, says this is not a zombie film. A zombie
what does he know?
Is an undead, reanimated corpse.
Okay, what makes this guy the godfather of zombie films?
Oh, dude. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead.
I don't know who he is.
Oh, come on.
Who is this George Romero?
He's the godfather of zombie films.
I suppose.
I mean, I'm not telling you his films are the best zombie films ever made, but he is known as the zombie godfather, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is...
Okay. Answer me this then, Kolter, if we're throwing questions at each other.
Okay.
Name another zombie director besides George A. Romero, because he would be the first, second, and third director you think of. So who is the fourth?
Oh, God. Some would argue Zack Snyder. I wouldn't say that, but some would.
Okay, fine. Zack Snyder did Army of the Dead, which was garbage.
Boo.
And he did the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which was originally done by George A. Romero.
Okay, fine. I'm still calling this a zombie movie, though. I'm going to stick to my guns.
Actually, I would call this a zombie movie, too. I don't know what everyone's all worked up about.
Okay.
What about I Am Legend? Is I Am Legend a zombie film?
Yeah, sure. Why not? If 28 Days Later is a zombie film, so is I Am Legend. They're all zombie films. But here's another piece of trivia we should argue about.
Oh, boy.
Everybody says that 28 Days Later invented the fast zombie.
Yeah.
That before 28 Days Later, there was no such thing as a fast zombie. Even though 28 Days Later doesn't have zombies.
Boy.
This is greatly false.
Is it really?
Nightmare City, 1980. Return of the Living Dead, 1985. Return of the Living Dead Part 2, 1988. The Serpent and the Rainbow, 1988. Zombie 3, 1988. Brain Dead, Dead Alive, 1992. Return of the Living Dead Part 3, 1993. All had fast zombies. All came before 28 Days Later.
Whatever. But this is basically Invasion of the People rabies. I think this movie is kind of responsible for re-energizing the zombie genre, doing it in a different way. Yeah, we might have seen fast movie zombies, but not like this. I mean, this is really they're scary in this thing. Like it was different. I remember when this came out and watched it the first time in the theaters, thinking, "Damn, you're so used to the kind of lumbering aimlessly around, like Walmart shoppers." And not the, not the ones that run at like pants shitting speed. It's different.
So I will not argue with you there. This film definitely revived the zombie genre.
Yeah.
You could argue, and I think you could do so successfully, that 28 Days Later motivated Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead, which came out in 2004.
Sure.
You can say that it inspired Shaun of the Dead, which came out in 2004.
Oh, yeah.
You could even say that it inspired Walking Dead, the TV series that came out in 2010.
Absolutely. Like the first episode of The Walking Dead is basically a rip-off of this film's real opening, not the first scene that we see in this film, but the film's true opening with Jim waking up butt-ass naked in the hospital and wandering, completely desolate streets in the city was definitely a first.
This was also Cillian Murphy's breakout role. Before this film, Cillian Murphy was nobody.
Yeah.
What? I mean, he was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah.
He was really, really good in this one.
Yeah, I mean, the whole cast is.
Let's talk about Cillian Murphy versus Cillian Murphy. So I hear both.
It's Cillian. Cillian.
I know it's Cillian, but
Cillian is something that only silly people would say.
See what you did there.
Oh!
Here's another piece of interesting trivia for you.
Okay.
This film originally had an entirely different ending.
Okay.
However, due to 9/11, they changed it.
No kidding.
Why?
This film was shot pre 9/11, 2001, and in the original script of this film, Jim dies. There is no blood transfusion hospital scene. He dies, and after 9/11, they thought it was too nihilistic, too dark, too heavy. So they rewrote the ending for him to survive.
Huh. I think I like the ending that they did not go with.
I think so too. I really like the alternate ending. There is an alternate ending, so you can see it. And Jim dies, and it's definitely more nihilistic, but I liked it. That's the ending I would have gone with.
Well, the characters had an interesting arc. You know, Naomi Harris, I forget her character's name.
Selena.
Selena. Selena arcs from nihilistic, just like you said, to hopeful in a unforced and very believable way. And there's a couple different characters in this that kind of are, we don't see that archetype in films like this. Brendan Gleeson's Frank is a good example. So, not everybody makes it out. So if nobody made it out, I think I'd be a little bummed out.
Speaking of bummed out, Naomi Harris said in an interview that she created a backstory for her character so that she could stay in that angry space the entire time. And this was the backstory that she invented.
Okay.
She had to kill both of her own parents to save her little brother because her parents had contracted the virus. And then after killing her parents, she discovered that her little brother had the virus anyway, and she had to kill him too.
Oh, God. That's awful. It's horrible.
That's pretty brutal.
I mean,
Goodness gracious.
it definitely explains her lack of hesitation in killing off her friend who got bit halfway through the movie.
She did not blink, did she?
There's that.
So I'm a little nervous, but I got to admit something to you fellers.
Oh, scoot your chair on up. You can tell us anything.
Well, I'm going to put that to the test, Kolter. Here we go. Ready? I watched this film for the first time last week.
No, you're kidding.
Serious as a heart attack. I've seen bits and pieces of the film, but I've never seen it all the way through.
Well, what the hell did you think?
Well, let's talk about the most obvious, and that is the quality of the picture.
Okay.
The film was shot on a Canon XL1 digital camera.
Yes.
And it's meant to be grainy and rough and
Ugly.
ugly. Exactly.
Very British.
I don't know that was the right choice. Tell me I'm wrong. I imagine in that time it was cool, but when I watch it now, I'm just like, I don't know that it worked.
I think it could have worked a lot better if they didn't do the really artsy shots and quick pace editing and super loud music over it all. It was a little too much at times. Like there were some action segments where there would be like a 5-second period where I didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
Like which character was who, because it was so shaky, so quick.
So frantic,
Pretty grainy.
Yeah, I don't know. The look of the film is very unique. It's very British. A lot of British movies, especially of that time, movies are shot and kind of I don't know. There's just a style of camera that they use for a lot of stuff that I don't think that was the reason why they did this. I think they were kind of sort of going for a found footage type of look. The only part of this movie that's not shot digitally is the end, which I didn't know until I was doing a little bit of research into this. So the end of this film is shot on film. Weird. But I think the reason for that is it's because it's kind of a happy ending, for the lack of a better word. They wanted to give it some color and some warmth that often only film can do, or the medium of film can do. So, I don't know. I remember it was a little jarring seeing it, especially in the theaters back in the day, because it did look so different.
And I've heard people say, this was a very low-budget film, and so it wasn't a deliberate choice.
Sure.
I don't know that that's accurate. I think this was an artistic decision that was made. I think they wanted that look. I don't think it was lack of budget. I know they had a lack of budget, and so maybe it factored in. But I think the aesthetic of the film was very deliberate. And, here we are, 2025. I didn't love it. I hesitate to be too negative about this film in any way, shape, or form, because this is such a cult classic film.
Yeah.
I mean, this film is beloved by all zombie lovers.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
So tell me, Kolter, why do you love it so much?
It's one of the few horror movies in which I think the exposition throughout the film is done through really good writing and character interactions. Right from basically the first scene of the movie, we kind of figure out what the rules of this rage virus are right away, which I appreciate. So we're not kind of trying to figure out, well, how does this thing spread? What is it? We're basically told from the get-go, it's rage. It's basically rabies. We kind of learn early on that these monsters tend to kind of go docile when there's like no target for them to focus on. We know that they puke blood into people's faces to spread the disease. And we know that they, like I said, they run quickly. They're like machines, literally like wild animals. So it was a little bit different. At least I had not seen anything quite like it. So I think the characters are very well realized. And the world itself, this was a $7-8 million budget, I think, which is nothing now. Wasn't much more then. And the way they were able to kind of shoot, especially when Jim wakes up from the coma, he's wandering around in the streets. I mean, these streets are going on for miles, and there's nothing, no cars, no people. That couldn't have been an easy thing to do on such a skimpy budget. So
no, I know they did close the streets down in London for these, and sometimes they were closed for only a couple of minutes. So they'd close the streets down, and it's like, hurry, we got to get this shot in. They'd film it, and then boom, traffic's back in the city there. Crazy, yeah. I mean, it's a crazy idea because, that's London, and it's vacant, and that's hard to do because it's a big, busy city.
Yeah.
You talk about the story and the writing of the film. I do think the script in this film is really cool. I think the idea of rage, turning people into zombie-like creatures that are just driven by their uncontrollable rage was a really cool idea.
Yeah,
especially
that's cool
when
as hell.
everything we'd seen up to that point was just brains.
Brains.
I thought that was a really cool direction to take this film.
Yes.
I really like the beginning when the monkey's strapped to the bed in the lab and they're showing him just incredibly violent and destructive images of humanity at their absolute worst in order to psychologically screw this monkey up and turn him into a rage-filled, violent beast. I thought that was a really cool direction to go. It was disturbing as heck. I found it really scary, but it was incredibly effective for this story. I also really liked the eyes. When people would become infected and their eyes went red, man, that was a horrifying look.
Yeah, no, I love it too. It's a crazy look. It's scary to see that. It just works so well.
I love Jim waking up in the hospital by himself and wandering around. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And the whole city. Walking around the whole city.
The scene where he goes back to see his parents is brutal.
Jesus, yeah.
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 When he walks in the room and he sees his mom and his dad there, that's a brutal scene for sure. There are parts of this film that I think are really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
The church scene. Can we please talk about the church scene for a minute? When he wanders into the church,
he's
like, hello! And that one zombie, whoop, from the pews pops up and looks at him.
Yeah, with his mouth open, like, something chilling about
And then
that.
the priest coming out of the back room, fast, trying to convert him. I love it. That's a great scene.
Oh, shit. That's good.
Great scene.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that if this movie were remade today with the same script, but just remade today, I think it would be better.
Really?
I know.
I agree.
I don't know.
I just think it would be better.
I think part of the gimmick is that we've seen now zombies like this in other movies. This crazy running, frantic human rabies type of thing again. I don't know. I don't think it smacked the same as it did back then.
I do agree that this movie did change zombies moving forward. There is no underappreciating it in that sense. But, this isn't a movie that I'd throw on with my friends and be like, check this zombie movie out. It's dated. I think to appreciate this film, you have to see it through the lens of 2002. If I'm going to put on a zombie movie today, there's better movies that I would turn to.
Okay. All right. Be that way. It's cool.
Damn straight it's cool, or I'd be another way. You think I'm wrong, Kolter. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, man. I would never tell anybody's wrong about their interpretation of a movie, piece of artwork, whatever, man. To each their own. But you're wrong.
Is this your favorite zombie movie of all time?
It's up there, for sure. I'm still a big fan of Day of the Dead. The way that film opens just gives me the creeps, dude. And it's just it's a completely animatronic zombie. But it sounds human, and it's just, oh God, it's disturbing. And it's the same thing where there's a desolate city, papers blown around, and just one zombie kind of just aimlessly wandering around, doesn't have a bottom jaw, and his tongue's just hanging out of his head, and he makes a sound that just, man, makes my skin crawl. The rest of the movie's a pretty wacky shit, but it's a lot of fun too.
You're talking Day of the Dead from 1985, correct? The original?
Yes.
Day of the Dead?
The original.
It's a silly but a goodie.
Yeah.
Chase, what'd you think? Did you find 28 Days Later to be effective?
Yeah, other than the editing details and visual things, I think a lot of the emotional pressure that it wanted you to feel was really effective for me. The whole scene in the hospital and the desolate city was really cool, and you didn't really get a sense of how bad the camera was. So then when it switches to the action scenes, it was pretty drastic, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a little bit hard to get through visually. But as the story went on, I was able to look past that a little bit.
Okay. What is your favorite zombie movie?
I think this is my second zombie movie ever.
Wow.
Well, what was the other one then?
I Am Legend.
Oh, okay.
In that case, I say the next 15 films we do here on Faster Film Critic, all zombie movies.
Yeah, concur.
Okay.
Let's bring Chase up to speed.
Yep.
15, 20 weeks straight of zombies.
Yeah, hell yeah.
In fact, let's just take it all the way to Halloween.
Perfect.
It's a lot of zombies, but I think we can do it. We'll start next week with 28 Years Later. Kolter, are you excited for 28 Years Later?
Yeah, that trailer is awesome. Yeah, what's one of the best trailers I've seen.
Maybe this will give you your answer. If this movie was made today, would it be much better?
Oh,
find
good
out.
point.
I'm going to push back on that.
Oh?
Yeah, I think that thesis is fundamentally flawed. This is a different movie. It's an entirely different movie.
Kind of.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's under the guise of being a sequel, but in many ways it probably will be a remake.
So, Kolter, I told you I just watched 28 Days Later for the first time.
Yeah.
Well, now I got to watch 28 Weeks Later in preparation for 28 Years Later.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to, right? I got to.
Yeah, sure.
What should my expectations be for 28 Weeks Later?
A little lowered, I would say.
All right.
It's not a bad movie, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't quite hit the same as this one did.
Well, a little lower is a relative term. So in order to understand exactly what you mean, I need to know, what did you think of 28 Days Later? Let's rate it on a scale of 1 to 5.
I had a surprisingly fun time. I can't believe it was Cillian Murphy's breakout role. He was absolutely amazing. Having not seen very many zombie movies, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm going to give it 3.5.
I really enjoyed this movie when it first came out. I enjoyed watching it again. It had been some time. The 4 core characters that we kind of end up following towards the movie, you actually come to care about them quite a bit, and you root for them. I'm always a big fan of kind of the less we see of the monster, whatever that monster might be, the more effective it is. And we don't spend a whole lot of time gawking at the quote unquote zombies, but it's got a great satisfying third act where Jim just goes full Martin Sheen a la Apocalypse Now at the end of the movie. I think it's a pretty well-written story and well-developed characters, and I think what it did for the zombie genre, it earns a 4 for me. It's leaning towards a 5, but it's a strong 4 for sure.
I got to admit, if I had seen this film back in 2002, I think I would have a greater affinity for it. I think this film requires some nostalgia if you're going to love it. There's also some social pressure to rate this film highly. I mean, it's a cult classic, but based on today's standards, having just watched it, I'm going to give it a 3. There are some aspects of the film I really like. Some of the writing aspects, some of the horror aspects. I absolutely appreciate what this did for the zombie genre. But there were some things I didn't like. I thought the aesthetic was really poor. I thought some of the acting was unbelievable in places. I thought the pace was off in some areas. The editing was a little cumbersome, but overall, I enjoyed it. You know, if you're a fan of the zombie genre and you haven't seen this film, you have got to check it out. It has left its mark. We want to know, what did you think of 28 Days Later? Please tell us. All right, I got one for you. If you guys like the virus horror films, not the zombie films, but the virus horror, I would strongly recommend you check out 2008 Quarantine. I think this film is underrated. It's directed by John Eric Dowdle and stars Jennifer Carpenter. It's a found footage, okay? I'm not a big fan of found footage, but I do think it was effective here. I really liked the setting. I really liked the story. I thought the film was frightening, scared the hell out of me. If you guys haven't seen Quarantine from 2008, look it up. Thank you for listening to Faster Film Critic, and please join us next week when we talk 28 Years Later, also directed by Danny Boyle. You can also follow us on Letterboxd, Cinetrack, and Instagram. Email us at fasterfilmcritic@gmail.com. Hit us up with questions, comments, feedback, or review requests, and please share this episode with your movie-loving friends.